All right, so we're going to introduce ourselves in a second. This is our supporting your child's learning during COVID. So thank you so much. My name is Mr. Way and this is Miss Lacona, and we are here for Roosevelt Middle School.
So just a little bit about us. My name is Miss Lacona, and this year I have all the 6th grade virtual students on my caseload and the 7th graders. This is my 6th year working at Roosevelt. I grew up in Orange County, specifically Lake Forest. And then when I graduated high school, I moved to San Diego to attend UC San Diego. And then after that, I moved back home, did my master's degree at Cal State Long Beach, and then was very fortunate to find a job right away after grad school and get hired at the best school ever, which is Roosevelt. And I've been here for 6 years, and I really don't think I'd go anywhere else to work. So I'm very happy to be here and very happy to be working with all of you.
And my name is Mr. Way. I grew up right around the corner in Fallbrook, and I was born in Escondido, and then we moved to Fallbrook when I was really young and grew up there. And I kind of had an interesting pathway to being a school counselor. In high school, I didn't have any plans to go to college. I was like, man, just get me through high school and then I'll get a job or play music somewhere. But you know, it's kind of a reality check when I got out there and realized that stuff's expensive. And you know, it's hard to have a family and a home and nice cars that are reliable unless I'm making a good amount of money. And so I decided to go back to school. So I went to Palomar for a few years, Cal State San Marcos, phenomenal colleges. I loved them. And then San Diego State for my graduate program for school counseling. And then similar to Miss Lacona, I landed the job at Roosevelt in 2017. So right when I graduated, and I love this school. We are just very lucky and fortunate to have great staff, teachers, secretaries, custodians. I mean, everyone on the campus. If you get a chance to come, I'm sure you'll feel that. So we're lucky. So I'm in charge of, my caseload is the 6th grade classic students that are classic right now. And then all the 8th graders. And so that doesn't mean that other students can't come to me. Me and Miss Lacona share students if they feel more comfortable speaking to her. It just kind of helps parents know who to go to. And yeah, I guess that's all about me.
Thank you, Mr. Way. And so just a little bit about our role, just because I know that at the high school, the school counseling role may look a little bit different, but as school counselors, we do focus on social, emotional, academic, and college and career. And so specifically at the middle, we do offer short-term social, emotional, individual counseling with students. We do check-ins with them. We work on academic and personal goals. We also offer more academic focused counseling. So that includes your, planning for high school and planning your classes, changing your schedules, all that good stuff. And we also work a lot with outside resources. So community resources, such as Lifeline, to refer students to outside therapy when it's identified that a student may need a little bit more support.
And so this is just our agenda for this afternoon. We're going to be looking at some current data. We did do an assessment of our Roosevelt students just to kind of get a feel for how they were feeling with the virtual learning and the difficulty level. We're going to talk about understanding expectations and the importance of making those clear to our students. We're going to talk about the learning environment. So even though we're not on campus, what is that area that we're learning? What does it look like? And then we're going to talk about developing habits and routines. And then at the end, we're going to go into pretty good detail. We have a lot of tips and tricks about Canvas. I feel like at our last presentation, the parents were really excited about all the Canvas and Aries stuff. So let's go ahead and get started with our opening slide here. This is often what parents hear from teachers, right? The teachers say, just log into Zamblzoot, scroll down to the Zork app, and have the kids work through the assignment sent through CrackleZam, or check the links posted in Drumblekick. And then the parents are like, what? Right? It's like, what? Like, I mean, me and Miss Lacona kind of grew up in this technology world, and all of this stuff is new to us. So we're all learning in this together. And so we did want to start out with a little interactive activity. So in your chat, we want you to write this, but don't send it. So this is a good practice to figure out how to use your chat. We want you to answer the question. Write one word to describe virtual learning. So in your Zoom chat window, don't send it yet, because at the right time, we're all going to hit enter, and then all of our answers will magically appear. So me and Ms. Lacona will also participate here. Write one word to describe virtual learning.
Oh, Miss Martha.
Oh, okay, we're gonna send it in 3, 2, 1.
Sorry.
Oh, we're all learning. We're all learning. Look at this. Okay. Different. Great from anywhere. Confusing, frustrating, changing, and trendy. Yes, these are all words that come to mind. Flexible is a good one. Yes. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
for
definitely
that.
good. It's definitely good to hear the adult perspective on this, because a lot of the times we hear the teacher perspective, we hear the student perspective, which is what I'm going to talk about a little bit right now. But it's also nice to hear from parents what your experiences are. So I appreciate you sharing that. Mr. Way and I, we sent out a student survey at the end of first quarter. And so we sent it out to science teachers, and we had about 600 students respond to the survey. So this is, these are the responses that are combined from students in grades 6 through 8. And so these are some of the findings that we pulled from the survey that we thought, some of them we were surprised about, and some of these findings kind of confirmed with things that we've already been hearing about that's going on. So 29% of students responded that they identified feeling isolated and disconnected. And this is huge, because right now they're not around their friends like they're used to. And so this is something that we definitely want to be mindful of, that our students are feeling a little bit disconnected from their peers and from their friends. We did identify or see that also motivation is low this year as compared to other years. So 33% of students reported feeling unmotivated to do anything. And the descriptor on this was pretty interesting, because this went and talked about even like not wanting to shower, not wanting to practice hygiene. So this is something that we definitely wanted to focus on. And so Mr. Way and I went into student presentations in the classrooms. And so we're using this data to drive our programs and what we're doing in the schools and what kind of support we're offering. For after quarter one, we asked students, how successful do you feel? After the first quarter, we had 17.7% of students said very successful, and then 55.8% felt somewhat successful, which is a pretty good number. With that feelings, some students really are feeling that level of success. And we did have 26% identify not successful at all. So that number is higher than we thought and that we've seen. And so that is something that we wanted to share with you all, because I think it's important, especially right now more than ever, to celebrate those small successes with students. Maybe in the past, your student has had a 4.0 GPA, and this year might look a little bit different, right? So just maybe adjusting what we're celebrating, and celebrating all those small victories as well with them is going to be super important. And then the other question we asked was, how challenging is the following statement been for you? And specifically, we wanted to gauge how difficult it has been for students to manage the amount of schoolwork that they're assigned, because at the same time that they're transitioning, all of our teachers are transitioning from the lesson plans and everything that they've done in the past. It has to be modified. And so we wanted to get a feel for how students were doing with their classes, and if they were able to keep up. So 31% of students said that it was very challenging to manage the amount of schoolwork they were assigned. 51% said somewhat challenging, and 17% said not challenging. So, when we got these results, we brought them to the teachers. And so all of these are points of discussion with the teachers as well, so that they understand also that what students are going through. Shifting over to what virtual learning looks like, and I'm sure a lot of you have already heard that our schedule is going to look a little bit different. And so when we pulled all this data, we looked at grades, we saw that students need more support. They need more individual instruction. They need more face-to-face learning. And so we did modify our virtual schedule. Before, we had the asynchronous learning in the afternoon that was focused more on independent learning. So students weren't required to go to Zoom classes, but now we want to be able to provide more structure and accountability for students. So now we're asking students to log into all of their classes. And so what this looks like in the afternoon is most teachers are not having full Zoom classes in the afternoon, but it's a chance for them to check in with the students. And a lot of the times they release students to work independently who are already doing well working independently. But then for the students who are maybe behind a little bit and they need that extra push or those extra reminders, they're able to hold them and work on them more in small groups. So that is the modification that was made. And so please encourage your students to log into all of their classes for Zoom time, because this just started yesterday. And so this is really new. And so yesterday I was presenting in a sixth grade class, and it was during the asynchronous time. So, but everybody's supposed to be there, and only 10 out of 30 students showed up. So we know that it's going to take a while for everybody to get the hang of it. And so we're hoping that by getting the message out in this way, we encourage more students to log into all their classes.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Lacona. So, wow, crazy. A lot of data. That's cool to see what currently our students are feeling. And then the importance of expectations and that new asynchronous schedule. I know that's going to be more adjusting that we all need to be flexible for. So we appreciate that. So now I'm going to be talking about the learning environment where your students are participating in school. And so you might be a virtual parent, family, or you might be classic, but right now we're all at home, right? And a lot of this year, even if we thought that it was going to be on campus, it ended up being that we were at home a lot. And so what we really want to push is let's make it comfortable where they're at home. Let's give them a space. And so an effective learning environment, what does that look like at your home? And it's going to look a lot different depending on your availability, right? Depending on how many people are living together, depending on how loud it is around you. But these are just things that we would hope you would try to create with your situation. We would want to limit distractions. And so if there's a phone out or if there's a loud noise coming, like shut the windows. We want it to be a quiet place to learn, as if your students were coming to school, right? What we try to create on campus, we would hope that you'd create at home. And so, I was thinking with me and my brother, when we were growing up, we always shared a room. And so the idea that came to mind for me was I would probably ask my mom to, like, if we could pin up a sheet to just separate, because at least that way it would give me and my brother like a separate space. And so we also want you to be prepared. And that means having your planner, your Chromebook is charged, you're ready as if you were coming to school, and your camera is on if you're able to. So we know that sometimes we share space, and sometimes our students are maybe going to work with their parents, and so they're not able to have their camera on. And so if that's the case for your student, that's totally fine. And we understand that. We would never pressure a student to have their camera on if they had a good reason not to, right? So what we're asking that is, if your student doesn't have their camera on, that they just let their teacher know. They could do a chat, a private chat, or an email, and just explain the situation. A lot of times it's the internet, right? Like sometimes I meet with students, and when they turn their camera on, all of a sudden their internet, starts cutting out, and then they lose connection. So we understand that those things, we just need to be aware of them. And so, some students are able to succeed and get good grades, maybe being in their pajamas and laying in bed and being in class. Like that might work for some students, but for some students, and for me particularly, I would need to like get ready, get prepared, and come to a zone where my brain knew like, okay, now it's time to learn, or now it's time to go to school. So just trying to create that at your home. And so that's one important thing is thinking about that learning environment. Another thing is having habits and routines, healthy habits and routines that your students are doing. And so this is just a list, and all of our students are different. And so some of these might work really well, and some you might, think don't work for you, which is fine. But we do want to mention that, research does show that having these kind of structures in place, these routines, when students know what to expect, it actually lowers anxiety and stress. And so that's something that right now, a lot of us are feeling with this whole unknown, everything shifting back and forth. And so it's nice to give students some sort of structure, right? Because what's nice for our students is they come to school. Even for me, usually when I'm on campus, the bell rings and I'm like, oh, it's first period. And then the bell rings again. Oh, so first period's over. Now it's a break. And then, so even me, we're used to having these cues, but students don't have those right now. So what we're going to be talking about is kind of how you could put some of those in place that will help it feel more normal. So making a to-do list and referring to it each morning is one great habit for your student. And we will talk about later where on Canvas you can look at their agenda. And that's a perfect way to, the night before, sit down with your student like tonight, right? And say, hey, we're going to make a to-do list of what you're going to do tomorrow, and do it with them for the first couple times until they get the routine. So they wake up in the morning and they pull out their to-do list. As they do it, right? Study for this test, do this assignment, they're marking it off. So they maybe in their learning environment, maybe they have a place where they could pin it on the wall or somewhere that they could see it. We also encourage students to refer to the schedule or a planner. So all of our students have a student planner that they got for free. So if your student didn't get one for whatever reason, let us know. And that's a great place for them to be writing down to-do list stuff. There's a little goals section. And we tell them even to use it for personal stuff, like right in there, Xbox with my friends, Xbox Live, or getting dinner with my cousin. Like we'd rather have them overuse it for private and school stuff than not use it at all. So just encourage that. And the teachers ask about it too, like pull out your planners. So it is a part of the routine in the class. And so it's important for you to know that when you're asking your students to, show you what they've been working on. So consistent bedtime and wake up time is important. We want to try to keep that normal. If your student's saying they're going to bed, you'd be very surprised at how late they're staying up on their phones, talking with their friends. So it's important to maybe have, in my mind, it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock. You don't need your phone anymore. Like your phone is now back in the parents' hands, and you're going and either reading maybe, when we're on our devices, our brains are triggering too. So it's even important for us as adults to like turn it off, shut it down, because it takes a little bit, and then be that example to your student, like let them see you take those steps as well is important. We tell the students to treat the online class like a real class, like you were coming to school, right? And we talk about having the cameras on. And so if you're showering in the morning, eating breakfast, getting ready like you normally would, right? Like doing your hair, you don't feel embarrassed to have your camera on because you are ready. Part of the stigma right now is these students are very disconnected, believe it or not, because they're connected so much through virtual, like they're seeking that interaction, but it's scary, to have cameras on. Like it's a very tough time, right? In middle school. So we just want to encourage them to make that the normal, like your camera's on, for every class, your camera's on, because then if a teacher sees a kid like on their phone, it holds the kid accountable, your students. So we always encourage cameras on. Eat breakfast, change out of your pajamas if that's what you need. Set aside time for relaxation and spread out assignments. So we don't want to cram everything. You can do some of this work into the, before dinner, after dinner. Don't cram it all into one spot. So the student planner is separated by subject and day, but some students might benefit from having a more structured, like when I talked about the bells at school, right? You could encourage your student on their phone to set a bell schedule to where every day on that time, their phone goes off. So it kind of gives them a reminder of what time they need to go to what class, right? And you can put in there like 7:30 out of bed, 7:45 eating breakfast, like just making it more structured from that for them, putting it somewhere that they can see it, on the refrigerator. This also helps you be aware of where they're at, right? So if you're asking, shouldn't you be in class right now? Like, a lot of times parents are a little confused why their students are in class. So this might be a good way as well. And we're going to share these slides that have some links on here. So you can take this document and actually edit it to make it custom for yourself. So checking emails, grades, and attendance. So we do encourage our students to email their teachers. This is something that that is getting, especially in high school, they do it all the time. So we really want to encourage students at any point, if you're having technology issues, if you have questions about an assignment, just get them in the habit of emailing their teachers, especially if there's technology concerns like we talked about, right? Some of our students are being marked absent because they're trying, but they don't get in. And then you guys get the phone calls, and then the students don't know, they're like, I was in class, I don't know I was marked absent. So hopefully we can, we'll show you on Aries how to find that information, but always email your teachers about those kinds of issues. And then check Canvas regularly with your student. We're going to talk about opening their Chromebook with them. The Canvas app is kind of confusing. So just you saying, hey, why don't you show me your grades? Why don't you show me your agenda? Doing it with them, and then creating goals. Like, hey, what do you want to accomplish by this Friday? Let's create a goal, and how are we going to get there?
Thank you, Mr. Way. Great tips. We wanted this next section is going to walk you through some helpful tips and tricks on how to use Canvas and Aries. This year is very difficult because we are all learning Canvas, and even as counselors, we are still figuring this all out. And so we try to pull the most helpful information so that you can take away these skills and apply them immediately when you leave this meeting. So the first step is, how do I get to my Canvas and Aries account? So all students have access to Cloud Connect. And so through Cloud Connect is where they can access their Canvas app and the student portal app. And so we'll talk a little bit more about those two different applications. So Canvas, think of Canvas as your classroom. So this is where all your assignments are, your grades, and the student portal is more of a database that follows students from elementary school to middle school to high school. So it keeps all the students' records, transcripts, and it has their final grades. So typically, you'd look at their grades through Aries, but this year, since we have Canvas and they're not communicating, I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we are using two different platforms, and students can access it through their Cloud Connect app. So the first thing that we noticed students getting really confused with their Canvas dashboard. And so what we found is that the best way to view the Canvas is by using the card view. Okay, so I want everybody to write this down and just to confirm that your child is viewing viewing Canvas in the card view. Okay, and so the reason that we say to view it in the card view is so the students can see all of their classes. So when students see this in a dashboard view, it only shows them the classes that have a Zoom meeting scheduled. And so some teachers do use the Zoom meeting scheduler through Canvas, but some of them just have a permanent recurring meeting that is not part of Canvas. And so if students are just following the dashboard, they're missing their classes. So I found a student that I just met with a couple of weeks ago that had never logged in to their second and third period class because it didn't show up on their dashboard. So they had never logged in the entire school year because they're like, oh, well, it wasn't there. Why would I go? Doesn't show up. We don't have a meeting. So this is super important. If you see it in the card view, then the student knows that they can go to that classroom directly, each tile, and then connect through the Zoom meeting through their tile. okay, not the dashboard view or the calendar. We ask all students to connect directly through their tiles. So this is how you can view it. It's at the top right hand side, and you'll be able to see this. So another good tip that and trick that we found is the agenda view. So this is another thing that you please write down, because we were finding that the Canvas parent app is very, very complicated. Like I've tried to look at it, and it's a lot, especially when it's on your phone, because some of the features don't work very well. And so it's very easy to get lost. So what we've been recommending to parents when we're meeting with them one-on-one with their students, we're saying, sit down with them every day, right? Because some students, some parents will say, yeah, you know, my daughter is telling me that she's done with all her homework and I saw her grades and she has all F's. I don't understand. So sometimes students think that they're finishing their work or they're not submitting it. And so using this agenda view will show you their Zoom meetings that they have scheduled. But I always tell parents, just ignore the Zoom meetings, look for everything that says due. So for example, for this student, it shows the date, February 9th. And then if you look at down, you see that there's 2 assignments. So it says due at 11:59. So that'll tell you that on Tuesday, both of these assignments were due. And they're not crossed off, which means that the student hasn't turned them in. When they're crossed off, it means that they already turned them in. So if I were this student's parent, I would log on, even if it's 5 p.m. and I say, okay, show me your Canvas agenda. Okay, well, I see that you haven't turned both of these assignments in. All right, give me your phone, get to work and turn those in. And then they can show you. And then if you see that it's crossed off on Canvas, then you'll know that it's submitted. So this is an easy activity without having to download the Canvas app that you can do every day with your student and log in. You can also see that there's their tests are on there. And so you can also look ahead throughout the week and see, okay, well, hey, Wednesday, you have a lot of assignments due. Why don't we get a couple done on Tuesday so that you don't feel as stressed out and leave them all for Wednesday. So this is a great strategy to stay on top of what child's doing. And what's nice about this is that if the student clicks on it, it takes them directly to the assignment. So they don't have to go back to the classroom and do multiple clicks. It takes them directly to the assignment and then they can work on it. So another Canvas tips and tricks is viewing the grades. So this school year is way different than any other year because typically we tell all the teachers and students to put all their grades in Aries. And so parents are able to check grades on Aries and those are considered the most up to date. This school year, we have Canvas, and like I said, we're still learning how to use it. And even, just at the district level, we're still trying to figure out how to merge those grades so that they're accurate. So if some of you have probably noticed that the grades in Aries don't reflect the grades in Canvas. So what we're telling parents is look at Canvas for the most up-to-date grades, because when teachers grade their assignments, they put them directly in Canvas, and the teacher might not always update Aries. It might take them a couple weeks. So I had a situation where a parent called me and said, hey, my student had an A in Aries 2 weeks ago, and then today they have an F. So what's going on? And so we tell parents that we need to be checking them in Canvas so that you see the most up-to-date assignments and what's missing. And then you can communicate with teachers through Canvas as well, through the inbox feature. And so your student can send a message directly to their teacher. So let's say that your student submitted an assignment and it's not there. Then you can have your student email their teacher directly from Canvas and ask them to just double check and grade it if it's missing. Okay.
Yeah, and so we see this student that we're looking at here has 104 messages in their inbox. And so that would be something that for sure, it's like, well, why don't we click over here? Maybe Miss Lacona or Mr. Way, sent you a message to say what's up, because we have a lot of students that don't check their email or their messages enough. So that's an important one as well.
Mm-hmm. And like I mentioned, we have had some trouble with the Canvas app because it is a lot to figure out, but we do have parents who are using it and they like it, you know. So if you do want to have the Canvas apps to check it and have it on your phone, easily accessible, and not have to check with your student, you can have it. And we have a Vista USD parent page that that is specially designed to give parents all the information you need about Canvas. And so they have videos on there that'll walk you through how to get the pairing code for your student, how to download it if you have a computer, or download it if you have an iPhone, or if you have an Android phone. So it's really, really specific information. And so this is something that the district did for families. And I don't see families using this enough, but it's a great resource. Sometimes parents will email me and ask me a question and I don't know, and I go straight to here and then copy the link and send it to them, because it has a lot of great resources. If you haven't had a chance to visit that website, please do so. So do we have any questions about Canvas?
Yeah, so Elizabeth, in the comments, I see that you said you love it and you love the comments to your girls. So that is nice when the teachers are able to respond back and give feedback on assignments. Teachers are very amazing. My girl motivates from those messages. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, because students definitely like the feedback that they get from their teacher when they submit something, and getting those comments it is something that helps with their motivation for sure. Thank you for mentioning that.
So
any other questions?
Yeah, we'll have more
Canvas?
time for questions at a later time too, but you can also just raise your hand or just unmute yourself, and we will get to your question there. So that was Canvas, and like Ms. Lacona talked about, that's kind of our like online school right now. So that's how your students are going to go into their classes. It's the best way to get into their Zooms, you know, have the most up-to-date grades. But what Aries is good for is that really the data portion, which is the report cards, the attendance, that is all built into Aries, which is what our students, you might be familiar with, because our students across Vista District use and have used. And so that's where the most recent report cards were posted. And so we are really pushing to get those mailed out. So you also hopefully will be getting a copy in the mail, but they are live right now. So if you know how to get into your parent portal or student portal through Cloud Connect for the students, you can go to grades on the menu and then hover over grades again. And what you'll see is the grade book is their, basically as the teachers sync the grades from Canvas to Aries, that's their grade book, and grade book details. That will give you the details of their current classes. But to see their old report card or old grades, which now we're looking at first semester, right? You have to go down to report card history. So it's a little bit different than it used to be, but report card history will show you right here. You see this student, we have the 8th grade grades and 7th grade grades. So first semester progress report. These are the grades. They're not your transcript grades, but these are the grades telling you what your progress is towards the final grade. So the first semester would be their final grade. So if you click on the English or Spanish, then you'll be able to get that report card and print it there. So another huge reason to use Aries is for attendance. So we know that especially with asynchronous, there are parents who are saying, hey, my student's getting marked absent, and we're trying to figure out what class they got marked absent for. So the best way to do that is to go to Aries under attendance. And so if you go under attendance, you'll see here the way it's sectioned out is Mondays coming down, Tuesdays coming down, Wednesdays. So you're looking across the week. So you'll see here, we took this screenshot yesterday. So the 9th is highlighted Tuesday. Today would be the 10th, Wednesday. And if you see a 1 or a 2, that means your student was in class. If you see a U or an A, that means the student was absent. So usually it will be an A right away. You'll see an A in a period, and these numbers are for each period. So it's hard to see them all. It's hard to get used to looking at, but if you hover over the number, on your computer, you'll see a little period 1 come up. If you hover over the second number, you'll see a little period 2. So you could come in and see this student last Friday was absent on period 1, 2, and 3, right? So what we would tell the student then is, okay, well, if you were in the class, then you need to email the teacher and let them know, hey, I had some issues, I had some technology problems, and the teacher has 3 days to correct that. So the teacher can just go in and say, okay, if it happens to the same student over and over and over, and they might talk to you about that, but for the most part, teachers are understanding right now that we're all trying to make this work. And so you shouldn't have any issues getting those corrected. So one thing we want to talk about as well is consequences and rewards. And so, we often talk about consequences. And if you look at the research, it does say that negative consequences are not the best way to learn or not the best way to teach anybody. So basically, if you do something bad, then you take something away. That's a negative consequence. But the best way to learn is positive rewards. So when your students do something good, you reward them and you give them something, right? So what we try to do is encourage parents to frame this in the right way. So our students often, they have so many things, these privileges, right? The video games, the phone, the going out with their friends, the skateboard, TV, computer, all those things they already have. So when we go to take it away, it's a consequence. But in my mind, if your expectation is maybe all C's and you tell your student, oh, right now you don't have all C's. So what that means is your privileges have been taken away. And when you get to that level, then you will get that stuff back. So you encourage them by giving them positive motivation when they succeed. And you want to celebrate the small wins, right? You don't need to shoot for the stars. Like Miss Lacona said, this year is crazy. So this year might not be the best year to really hammer on academics. This might be a year to really show your student that you support them and that you want them to be happy. And part of being happy is doing well in school, right? So student, what do you need to feel like you are doing well? Like ask your student, what would you consider a good grade, And so we want you to be clear and firm in your consequences. So for example, one consequence could be if any grade falls below a D, that equals no video games. Like that's just the rule, right? And they might tell you that if you're seeing a D, it's because their grade's not updated or whatever. So it's not, like I put in there, you tell the student, well, if your teacher hasn't graded it yet, or if it's the teacher's fault, then you need to email the teacher. Because what I see on my side is you have a D. Right. So just really being clear with the students. Don't just say, oh, your teacher messed up. Oh, okay. So really encouraging them to reach out. And then we do want to use words of encouragement. Sometimes I talk to parents on the phone and they tell me so many stories or situations of where they told their student to do that, or their student's getting F's, and then their student keeps lying, and then their student's taking things. And I think to myself, asking the question like, well, how many positive interactions? Like think back on the last week or 2 weeks, how many positive interactions could you feel like you could talk about with your student? And if you can't think of many, right, then maybe that's a good time to reflect and be like, okay, right, if we don't have a good mix, then it's also hard for our students to be like, every time you come at me, you're talking about academics, you're talking about things that I'm not doing well, right? So if that's something that maybe your students, feeling right now, then it's important to encourage them with the small successes. And then let them know that you appreciate them and we need to stay positive. This is a crazy time. And, we talked about one positive thing is we're able to hopefully take some of these presentations and make them virtual, more accessible to parents. There are some good things coming from this. And so trying to find those good things with your students. And that's kind of what this slide talks about as well is, our students right now, they need stability. And that's funny because I'm sure all of us are like, yeah, me too. Like I would love some stability right now. Like, can I go to this restaurant? Can I not? Am I able to go into work? Am I going to have my job for much longer? These fears are all around right now. And so what we want to do, right, is try to be that rock, try to be that foundation for our students. And we don't want to, we don't want to give them false hope or say like, oh, everything's going to be fine, suck it up. We just want to say, hey, it might not be fine, but we got each other. We'll work through it together, right? And that's what family's for. So try to be that support for your student. Talk to your student, encourage them to express themselves and ask them how they're feeling about school. We know that there's a lot of computer screen time right now. And it does bum me out that we live in a world right now where our students are just stuck on their computers. It's not great. It's not great for the brain. So we really do encourage you to get them outside, get breaks, encourage your student. Let's take a walk, after school every day. Let's me and you just take a walk around the block and go, hey, how'd it go today? How did everything go with your class? I know you had an issue with that teacher, make it a part of that routine, right? Where you get out with them. That might be a good one for you. Be alert for any changes in behavior. So we do want, you parents see your students every day. And one thing that is a bummer about this as well is teachers don't see the students as much, so we really do hope that our parents can support us in this way, that if you're seeing changes in your student and you want us as their school counselor to reach out to them, we don't need to be like, hey, your mom sent me an email that you're, doing whatever. We could just say, oh, I'm just kind of checking in with all the kids on my caseload, so however you need to frame that, but we would love to support them in any way we can. And then just, let them know that we're in this together. So that was a lot more information. Ms. Lacona, I don't know if anything came up in the chat or if anyone has any questions.
I do see another question in the chat.
Thank you.
From Britannia. Thank you. If your student is saying that they logged in Aries and Canvas, but you're still getting phone calls, what is the next step? So if you're getting attendance phone calls, the first thing that I would do is I would check Aries attendance so you can see which period your student is getting marked absent for. And then from there, if it's the same teacher every week, then you need to reach out to the teacher and just say, hey, I would encourage the student to email the teacher, and then the student can include you in the email, or you can send the email to the teacher, but include the student. We want the student to be as involved as possible in advocating for themselves. So yes, the first step would be checking Aries to see which periods, and then contacting the teacher that they were marked absent for. Great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. And I know that with our previous schedule, this was actually something that was confusing for students, is during that asynchronous time, it's like, well, how do I know, how my teacher is taking attendance? And some teachers were doing it by an assignment. Some were just letting them log in, and as long as they logged in, but now with this new system, we are hoping that attendance will be a little more accurate, because the teachers will be seeing their students there, and then taking attendance live on Zoom. So hopefully that will help you get less phone calls. And yeah, I like what Ms. Lacona said too. For sure, if it's the same teacher, then just let that teacher know, like, hey, there might be a mistake because I'm often there and I get marked absent. We're doing our best to figure it out. Any other questions? We can have parents unmute themselves if they like, or if you want to put it in the chat, we can read out your question specific about your situation or just in general. We do have a board meeting tomorrow night. So for those families who are kind of looking forward, like the rest of us, to knowing when students can come back on campus, we're hoping to have some more answers on Friday after tomorrow night's board meeting. Okay, so Valerie, looks like you missed the part about how you can get Canvas on your laptop and or phone. Can you give me a link? So
I'm pulling it up right now, and I'm going to put it in the chat to the VIP page with all the videos, because it'll depend on if you have a laptop or a desktop, or if you have an iPhone, or so. I'm just going to link this page for Canvas support, and then you can look, there's videos posted, and it'll tell you how to connect. So I'm going to put that in there right now.
Yeah.
And
so Valerie, what we talked a little bit about here in this meeting too was the importance of using your student's laptop, their Chromebook, to get into Canvas, because then there's certain views they can see that you can just do it with them. And the app is not great. It does work, and you do get I don't know if any of you sign up, but every time I signed up for a student to test it out, and every time a grade gets updated from a teacher, I get an email. So I get so many emails. So I know how many assignments your students are getting. So, but the app isn't as great as just their Canvas page. So we do encourage you either daily or every other day to just say, hey, let's open it up. Let's look at your assignments on your Canvas. All right. Any other questions? We can also put our information up here again. So we have our email addresses, our extensions on there. We do have a Instagram page and a TikTok. We don't really post too much on the TikTok, but we try to keep the Instagram updated. And so that's also a great way to message us. You know, students will just message us on Instagram, or parents with questions, and we can, we'll chat right back with you on there. So we try to make it easy for you to get in contact with us.
Yes, and please call us or email us. We're in the office, and we definitely love to hear from parents. And so if you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us. Write down our extension. We're available, and if we don't know the answer, we'll find it for you. We'll figure it out.
If we don't know the answer, Miss Martha does, the wonderful Miss Martha who's on the call. She'll probably answer when you call the school and say, Mr. Way, you have a phone call.
I will try my best.